Right, hello everybody and welcome to the next IMI webinar. We're here today to talk about motivation, mental health and the motor industry. I'm really pleased that you're all here to join us to talk about this topic and hopefully you'll get a lot out of it as well. It's an interesting and very important topic that we need to discuss more often, I guess, especially given current circumstances. My name's James Skoltock. I'm the editor of Motor Pro magazine. That's the IMI's publication. And I'll be guiding everyone through the webinar, but rather than me do all the talking, it would be better if our panelists did, and we've got two very strong people with us today. Before I introduce them though, I just want to say this is slightly different feel and flavour than previous webinars that we've been running, but hopefully you'll get just as much out of it. We want it to be as interactive as possible, so really please do use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and get your questions in. The more questions you send in, the more help we can give you and the more benefit you'll get out of this. So yeah, please do, as we're moving through, use that Q&A function and get your questions over to us. So who we've got on the panel today? We've got two really good individuals. We've got Carl Williams, who's Director at Williams Talent Management Consulting, and also Jimmy Elliott, who's a mental resilience coach. And they've both got a wealth of information and experience to hand over to you. But rather than me talk continuously about them, it'd be good for them to introduce themselves. So first off, we've got Carl Williams. Hello, Carl, and welcome to this webinar. Would you like to give a little bit of background to yourself?
Absolutely. No, thank you and welcome everybody. So yeah, I'm Carl. I run a consultancy that is heavily people orientated. We help industries manage and develop that very special element of their operation, which is their human capital. That helps and grows and generates all of the good things that businesses are looking to achieve. Now, we do this in 5 different ways. Help the business understand its culture and identify where those growths need to be and the additions need to be integrated into the business. We advise on how and who to recruit over whatever period of time, and how to redevelop capabilities and skills as well. We help embed the appreciation and understanding of continuous development. We advise and assist on non-technical skills training and development, with a real strong focus on well-being. And lastly, I consult on performance management and appraisal strategies. So it's a very, very much a human capital orientated consultancy, and we're really, really proud about what we do.
Great, that's really good. Thanks very much, Carl. It's going to be a good webinar, I think, today. And as mentioned, we've also got Jimmy Elliott with us as well, who's a mental resilience coach. So, Jimmy, what's your background, and then what can you bring to the table? Or what do you bring?
Well, in 2006, I joined the British Army and joined the British Army Airborne Forces, went to the regiment of 7 Para IHA, where I became attached to the 3 Para battle group and a fire support team within it. Deployments abroad, obviously inclusive of Herrick and Afghanistan, including in 2010. I then became the British Army's part of the British Army's first ever tactical parachuting instructors platoon. So I was selected to sort of teach tactical parachuting. From there, I sort of developed a keen interest in mental health and began doing a lot of mental health courses, including becoming a grief counsellor. I then started running a mental resilience training package, sort of bespoke within the parachute training school to optimize performance. From there, then I sort of got this product involved with the Army HQ, where I got pulled on board, and then became the second in command of all the British Army's mental resilience and wellbeing training. I then delivered a mental resilience and wellbeing package to the Commander of the Field Army and the Chief of General Staffs in Whitehall in main building, and they said, yeah, this is brilliant. So then wound up delivering mental resilience and performance optimization and wellbeing training all around the British Army, including on deployments. From there, I sort of went a little bit more into performance optimization, did a lot of work with the Paralympic rowing team. I've also worked with high-end corporate and business, and myself got more and more involved in the rugby world, wound up setting Guinness World Records for endurance feats in rugby, so longest game of rugby 7s and the longest game of rugby 10s, both 24.5 hours respectively. And so I've gotten heavily involved now with mental resilience training in the civilian sector, inclusive of high-end, like very high-end sport performance and very high-end high-pressure jobs.
Actually, I think you'll agree that with the two speakers we've got today, that I think we'll be able to cover every topic imaginable. I just want to reiterate one more time, use that Q&A button. We'll try and answer all of your questions, if not during the webinar, in the main chunk of it at the end. We'll try and save some time for a Q&A as well, so we can get to as many of your questions as possible. And even if we do run out of time, which is, it's always the clock's against us, we will get back to you offline in a different way to make sure that we can get you the answers that you really want. But I guess it's time to jump into the webinar proper. And James, I'll hand over to you, and you can start talking about the challenges that we're all facing, whether you're a technician in a workshop or a sales guy in a dealership.
Thank you very much. So the sort of three main areas that we identified. So the question was posed: what challenges are we facing with our mental health during this difficult time? So the three that sort of myself and Carl identified were uncertainty and anxiety, immediate information overload and how information is being presented to us and how we choose to perceive the information that is being presented to us, and as well change and adapting to change, and how we can better adapt, how we can better learn to adapt to the situation that we're in. So myself and Carl sort of have had a think, and we've had a little chat about really what can we do about these three things. So really the first thing I want to concentrate on is the uncertainty, and that is attribution theory, and that is anxiety. So first of all, I thought I'd take a moment to explain about the source and the origins of anxiety and how we can manage it, and then I'll explain about attribution theory. So the source of anxiety comes from a very central, it's sort of the very first part of our brains to be formed as a fetus. It's the first part. It's also the oldest part of our brains. Evolutionary, this used to be all we had. And it's a very emotional, very irrational, very responsive part of our brain. It's almost like, imagine it as an inner caveman. Okay, so we have this emotional center of our brain called the amygdala. Now this amygdala just throws hysterical emotions at us almost relentlessly. It constantly scans for danger. It is there for survival. It is essential. Now, this survival instinct that we've got, this inner caveman that constantly looks for danger, also constantly perceives danger where there isn't any. It is the center of our overthinking. So when we are worried about a level of uncertainty that gives us anxiety, that's this inner caveman in our head going, oh, we don't know what's going on, what's going on, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. So from a motor industry perspective, it can be as simple as, I don't know if I'm going back to work tomorrow, or I don't know if I'm going to have a job in a month. I don't know what the future of this COVID-19 is. Like every time Boris Johnson comes onto TV, I feel nervous, I feel worried, I feel anxious. Well, actually, what is that? Well, that is a caveman part of your brain, this very central amygdala part of your brain going, like there's danger, there's threat, there's danger. But there's not danger, there's not threat. There's just the perception and the sort of anticipation of it, but it isn't really there.
But Jim, let me stop you. I mean, that landed with me quite well, but then you're saying that there's no danger and there's no threat, but I'm perceiving danger. I'm perceiving threat. There's a threat on my sustainable means of how I live life, and what is normal to me. So, how do I now get around that? I mean, because these are real things. They definitely feel real to me.
Well, absolutely. And it's real in the sense that obviously there's financial difficulties and stresses that are caused, but as in this part that generates this emotion of anxiety and this stress and this threat, it's perceiving life-ending danger. And actually what we need to do is manage this emotion and manage this feeling. And part of the way, there's many different ways, but part of the ways we can do it is through this attribution theory. Now, attribution theory is about understanding what is internal and what is external, and therefore what is controllable and what is not controllable. So, for example, an external uncontrollable factor would be the weather. The weather is external and it's uncontrollable. Another one that is say external and uncontrollable would be what Boris Johnson's going to say. Boris Johnson, he pops up and he says what he says and he does what he does, but he's an external uncontrollable factor. In fact, if we could shoot to the next slide, then I'll make it a little bit clearer. So this attribution theory at the top there, it's external and internal factors. So an external factor that's uncontrollable is what Boris Johnson's going to say. But an internal controllable factor is how we choose to react to what we're told. It's how we choose to behave, how we choose to respond to our emotions. See, it's very, very easy for us to say that, but there's a process for it. But the attribution theory is understanding that there are external things that are beyond our control. And if they are beyond our control, then they almost can become irrelevant to us, because what really matters, what is actually the point, is how we choose to react to the things that we are presented to. And that is what makes us very human. It's our choice of how we react, because everything is choice. So how we choose to react to the situation that is presented to us is actually a far better way of coping with it.
So let me just take something away from this attribution theory then. So you're saying, what's the nutshell that you want me to put the understanding in here, please, Jane?
What I need you to understand is that there are internal and external factors. And if you spend your life worrying about external factors, then you will spend your life worrying. There are things that are going on all around the world, constantly in both in our immediate circle and all across the globe, that are completely uncontrollable by us. You could spend your life sitting there and worrying and getting worked up and getting anxious and being plagued by this internal generation of anxiety for no real reason, because you can't control those things, you can't manage those things. But what you can choose to manage is your individual reaction to them. So when Boris Johnson comes out and he says, oh, we're going to stay in lockdown or isolation for another week, another 2 weeks, whatever it might be, you can then go, right, okay, well, he was going to say that, whatever he was going to say, really, what I need to do now is focus on me and how am I going to manage this? What am I going to do? How am I going to choose to react to this? Because I could scream and shout and I could throw my dinner across the table. I can go mad. I can lose my temper, or I can calm myself. I can breathe. I can say, right, what am I going to do? And we are going to move into a little bit of emotional regulation, and we're going to look at focus. So, focus: feel, observe, control, use, and succeed. This is an acronym
and you're suggesting that this feel, observe, control, use, and succeed is a practical thing. It's something that we can use every day. We can use this now in our circumstances, in the industry that we're in.
Absolutely. So focus as an acronym is a really, really powerful way, a really, really powerful tool that we have in our toolbox of managing our emotions. So I'm going to use it for the focus of anxiety for now, because that's obviously tying into what we're talking about, but it can be used for any emotion. And it's feel, observe, control, use, and succeed. Now, the beauty of focus is it teaches us emotional regulation. It teaches us to control ourselves. So let's start with feel and emotion. Now, as I said before, the emotions that are generated at the very center of our brain, the amygdala, the limbic system, but the amygdala specifically, they throw these emotions at us. We are evolutionarily designed to have these emotions. We can't stop these emotions. These emotions just get thrown at us, just impact us. There's nothing we can do about them. They just come into our mind. These emotions happen whether we like them or not, because we are human beings. And actually, it is our emotional center that really, you could argue, has caused our survival. It's what's driven us to the top of our respective food chains. Our emotions and our ability to feel them and interpret them is what makes us human. But in the modern world, we need to learn to control that. In the modern world of the motor industry, we need to absolutely control our emotions. So you have an emotion, you are a human being, you are absolutely entitled to feel the way that you feel. Never will I ever teach people to try and suppress the way that they feel. Feel it, embrace it, observe your reaction to it. So Boris Johnson comes out, you feel anxious. Good, observe your reaction to feel anxious. You have that absolute right to feel nervous, but what is your actual physical reaction? Do you feel short of breath? Do you feel a coldness? Do you feel a tightness in your hands? What do you feel? Like that is you observing your reaction. Boris Johnson comes on, feel a certain way, observe that reaction. So you are then observing that reaction, and you have to control it, because if you get anxious, you might slam your hands, you might get irritable, you might get angry, you might get depressed, you might get whatever your reaction to that is. So you feel anxious, you observe that emotion. Right now, I'm going to control it. I'm going to control how I choose to react. I'm going to do that because I've noticed, because I've observed my physiological response, because I've observed the fact that I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling nervous. I can then control that. And I'm going to control that by turning that negative energy, turning that anxiety into something productive. I'm going to turn that into something good. So I'm going to take that emotion.
Let me just pause you there and make sure I've slowed that down enough for us and for me and for maybe others that are listening. So what we're saying is that we're okay to feel the emotion, whatever it is that we're okay to feel it.
Yeah.
Then we should observe what we are feeling and how we feel about it. The important part is then the control of what we do next with it. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. So
it's not about ignoring.
like never ignore your emotions. You are a human being, and like we talk about never bottling things up. That's obviously a very common statement, like never bottling things up, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like never bottle that up. Feel that emotion, observe it. Like this guy makes me feel anxious. I need to control my reaction, or what I'm being told is making me feel anxious. So I need to control that. So control that. I'm going to turn that into something positive. I'm going to get up. I'm going to crack on with a bit of exercise. I'm going to do some cleaning. I'm going to do some work. I'm going to do some gardening, whatever it is that subjectively you enjoy. Feel that emotion, observe your reaction to it, control it. Control it. Go, right, I'm not going to lose my temper. I'm going to use this for something positive. And that's to use. I'm going to use this energy for something positive, and I'm going to succeed. Feel, observe, control, use, and succeed. I'll can go into great detail about this, but essentially it's about understanding and embracing that emotion, controlling it, and using it for something positive.
But so what, James? What would you say to somebody that really is stuck in that place of, so they've understood how they feel, and it is powerful. And sometimes in the world of mental health and stuff can really hold you back and hold you down. It feels like a weight sitting on your chest, and you can't get up out of your chair. You can't go and you see doing the next load of things just pointless and mundane. How will we sort of break the back of that and then be able to then use and succeed? How do we do that?
That then ties into of course motivation. So then, okay, so I'm feeling a certain way, I'm feeling really down, and actually if you, by setting very small, very achievable goals, obviously I know that we're going into goals in just a moment, but very small, very achievable goals, actually you will gain more momentum. You'll feel more positive. I remember when I was going through my sort of really bad rough spot after Afghanistan, that my goals were as simple as get out of bed. Goals were as simple as having a glass of water. Goals were as simple as, right, by midday you're going to be out of bed and have your first coffee and drink a litre of water. That's your goal. Really simple. So once you then start achieving these little goals, then actually the bigger goals start becoming more achievable. You become closer with every step towards them. And we'll go into the goal setting and the motivational effect of goal setting in a moment, if I could.
Yeah, that's sure. So framing techniques then, what would you say?
So framing techniques, this is talking about the media really, and how we choose to perceive information that is given to us. Okay, so we're given obviously a lot of very negative information at the moment, and I know that there's been a lot of scrutiny of the modern media, and I'm not a massive fan of it, but how they broadcast constant negative news at us. And I think that there's so many better ways of looking at that, particularly in this sort of difficult time where we're looking at a stay at home. Stay at home, perhaps we could reframe that as safe at home. Perhaps we could reframe this lockdown, quarantine, isolation, all words with great negative connotations.
Yeah.
Actually, we could sort of change that around and think about it as hibernation, as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to spend more time with family and friends we've never had this time with, whoever it is that you live with. So we've never had this time before. Never before have we been told, right, you are to stay at home and you are to do this and do that, work on yourself or stay away. And as people go, oh, it's terrible, like I can't go to work. I get that it's tough, but what an amazing opportunity as well to learn and to grow. And actually the way that we frame the information that is given to us will massively dictate our reaction to it. So rather than
so let me just slow you again. Let me just slow you again there, James, and just say, am I right in thinking, could I put the ideas and the understanding of focus and the framing techniques together? Can I sandwich them together and go, because I'm looking at all of these different things that you've got here and you're presenting to us all, and each of them I'd see as different components, and maybe I need to build something in its whole from all of it. But what's landing with me right now is that if I sort of use this motivation that I need to feel, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm held back. I'm a salesperson typically, if I can represent the mindset of an individual like that. And I tend to interact and engage with lots and lots of people. I'm unable to do that at the moment. So what you're suggesting is perhaps looking at my circumstances and reframing what's happening in those circumstances, so that then I'm motivated to do something different. Just put that all that together for me again in a
great way of doing this is to argue both sides. So both sides of any argument, of any situation, in any context that you find yourself, to go, right, here's the negative, because that's where we instantly go to. Like, we instantly go to the negative because we're human beings. We go, boom, and we go to the negative and we argue the negative. So remember, our caveman that's wired to survival is going, this is the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to anybody ever. And he starts throwing all this negative thoughts into our heads. Okay, and he starts throwing his negative thoughts in our heads. Right, and once he's finished, argue the other side. Imagine that you're in court and you are both the defense attorney and the prosecutor. You see, the prosecutor's had his go. Okay, that's been Mr. Negative. Right, actually now defense. Like, what's the positive? Like, okay, what's actually the good things to come from this? And then you can evaluate your emotional reaction. So in a way, you can put in a reframing somewhere between the O and the C. So you can feel emotion. Oh, I feel terrible. Like, oh, I feel really anxious. I feel really nervous. But why? Let's argue one side. Let's argue the other. Okay, right. Well, this is actually now how I'm feeling. Let's control this. Let's use it and let's succeed.
Right. Okay. I get it. I get that now. Okay. So what's then next?
Well, the last point is about adapting to change. Now, we're obviously going through a change, and I think the cliche that, I don't know about the rest of you, I'm absolutely sick of hearing, is about the new normal. Okay, I don't know what that means, but apparently there's now a new normal, right? So hearing this new normal is actually very difficult for people because there's no clarity to it. Like, what does that mean? In the same way as, like, stay alert. What does that mean? Stay alert. It's new normal. It doesn't mean anything. So actually, this adapting to change is quite difficult. So people need to understand, and it's a little bit of attribution theory, although mindfulness purists would be furious that I would dare compare mindfulness to attribution, but mindfulness is not what people think it is. So I imagine, Carl, you're going to think when I say mindfulness that I'm going to say that you need to
cross my legs, hold my things, and just do stuff that I just don't feel I'm able to do because I just can't still myself and calm myself enough, and so I dismiss it, to be honest.
Okay, so mindfulness is about generating calmness. It's also about altering the way that we think. So mindfulness isn't necessarily about putting on some Gymshark leggings and lighting some candles and putting a photo on Instagram. It's actually more about reprocessing the way that we see situations and understanding that attribution. That, okay, so let me put it this way. So the past, okay, we've all got things, right, that we're all embarrassed about in the past, right? Carl, I'm sure you've done things that you're embarrassed by.
One or two.
I'm looking forward to hearing what they are later. So, no. One or two things in the past, right, that you're not happy about, okay, that toe-curlingly embarrassing. Now, can you change those things?
No, I can't.
No. Okay, so those things have happened, right, they're in the past, and you can't change them. Not only that, but actually, what actually happened in the past was nothing more than your perspective, and what was really embarrassing for you might not have been embarrassing at all for me, might not have been embarrassing at all for everyone around you. Okay, so that embarrassing thing, that moment that's made you sort of cringe, okay, that's only an embarrassing moment in your perspective. To every single other human being on the planet, that wasn't an embarrassing moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'd argue that other people might have been embarrassed by them, but it all depends on, yeah, okay, go ahead. Let me just try and understand this.
Okay, so your past is your past. It's
right.
Your perspective, and it happened to you and subjectively to you. It didn't subjectively happen to all of us. We have shared moments, but actually your past is your story, right? Whatever happened to you happened in your perspective. If we'd have been in the same room at the same time seeing the same thing, we would have seen different things, okay? Everybody's past, and there's been so many fascinating studies on this, but everybody's perception of events is completely different. Amazing. So that is a perspective. So the past is a perspective that cannot be changed. Therefore, it's not real. Therefore, it's irrelevant because it's only real to you. So it's not relevant. You can't change it. Forget about it. It's happened. It's gone. Now the future. Carl, when you think about the future and what you're going to do tomorrow, you see yourself as sort of the main character in your own blockbuster. But does that plan ever pan out exactly as you imagined it to?
No. I do see myself as a main character in a blockbuster, but it never pans out to being anything like I first envisioned. But okay, go on. I'm still working with you.
Okay, so the future then it's not a controllable factor. We talk about internal and external factors. The internal factor that is controllable is your reaction, but the external thing that you cannot control is what everybody else is going to do, because everybody else has got their own blockbuster movie going on. Everyone else is the main character. Everyone else has got stuff to do. That's why it never pans out the way you imagine it. So the past isn't real. It's just a perspective. The future, you can't really control because you can't control what everyone else is going to do. The only thing that you truly can control is the present moment and what you choose to do with that present moment.
Right.
So that is mindfulness. We're not going to sit and overthink about what could potentially happen the next day, the next 2 days, the next 3 days, the next 4 days. We're not going to sit and think about the past and how worrying that is. No, what we're going to focus on and focus on entirely is you and the moment in which you find yourself right now. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm not sure if it's doable. Let's just put it in a scenario of some of the people that I know working in our industry at the moment. You've got some people that have been working in the automotive industry for a very, very long time, and now all of a sudden this is causing such disruption that their careers now are brought to a standstill, and it's really hard to kind of find some solace in that or recreate some things. They know their story of their past, and that story is quite successful. The future is really uncertain. What do I do in this present moment?
In the present
what
moment,
do I really do?
Is you control your emotional reactions, because any amount of now losing your temper, any amount of emotional reaction will not be logical and it will not assist you. So what you need to do is calm yourself, control yourself, and focus purely on that present moment.
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
So,
if we scroll on to the next slide then.
Yep.
And we'll talk a little bit about motivation, because we parked it before, and we parked goal setting before. So I'm going to bring it back into the discussion. I'm going to talk about motivation. So we have intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. Okay, so an extrinsic motivator is being in your garage at work and your boss saying, do this right now, or I'm going to hit you on the head with a spanner. That is an extrinsic motivator, right? That's him saying, do that right now, and so I'm going to do it, all right? There are a lot of people who have made a very successful career in the army about being very successful extrinsic motivators. Do what I say now, Elliott, or I'm going to hit you with something. Like, okay, cool. Like, that is an extrinsic motivator. An intrinsic motivator is me doing something because I'm motivated to do it, because I think it's the right thing to do, because I get a good feeling from it. That is intrinsic motivation.
okay.
Intrinsic motivator and extrinsic motivator. Okay. Now, intrinsic motivation is very, very powerful, right? If you are doing something because somebody's told you, do what I tell you to, or I'm going to punish you, the moment that person or the moment that punishment is gone, you are far less likely to repeat that behavior. But if you are motivated because you enjoy doing something, then you are far more likely to repeat that behavior.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So this sounds like this is more, yeah. This is more something I can work with, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you're
Sorry, James, can I just jump in? Because the motivation point is really interesting. And we've had a question through on the Q&A saying, well, how do I remain motivated if I've got nothing to do? You know, there's a lot of people in the industry now who are on furlough, and they just can't physically work, can they?
Yeah. So that is a beautiful thing about mindfulness. Okay, so when we talk about mindfulness, we talk about being very relaxed, okay, focusing on just the very present moment. Okay, we're removing this constant emotional generator that's in our brain. Okay, we're using pure logic to stay in the present moment. Now, the beauty of that is it gives us much greater clarity of thought. There's far more activity in the prefrontal cortex, okay, which is our reasoning and our logic part of our brain. And there's far less activity in our emotional center. Now, with far more reason and with far more logic, it's far easier then to find out and to think about who we really are and what do we really want to do. So when we talk about negative framing into positive, and we're thinking, rather than it being an isolation, quarantine, really negative thing, let's look at this from a really positive angle. Do a bit of mindfulness and think, right, well, actually, it's not stuck at home, it's safe at home. And it's not quarantine and isolation, it's time to spend on me and to work on me. And all of a sudden, you're finding out and you're thinking about, who am I and what do I really want to do? Because when you find out what you really want to do, you become more intrinsically motivated to do it. You become more motivated to get up and do the thing that you love. Right. And because you're doing the thing that you love, actually, with every step towards doing that thing, and every time you do it, you become more confident at doing it. We have a greater release of dopamine, which is like our reward drug in our brain. We have a greater release of this reward drug. And we start thinking, do you know what? This is brilliant. I want more dopamine in my life. I want to keep doing this. And we keep doing it, and we're doing it, and we're doing it. So actually, spending a little bit of time to just relax ourselves. We're not thinking about the future. We're not thinking about the past. We're thinking about now. We're thinking about, who am I? And what do I want to go and do with my life? And where do I want to be? And what do I want to study? And what is going on? Like, who am I really? we come out with a brilliant outcome goal. So an outcome goal, okay, is where you want to wind up, who you want to be, what you want to do. Your performance goals are the standards that make that. So actually, I want to be, I don't know, I want to be I want to start in my rugby club. I want to be on the first team. I want to be in the starting lineup. Okay, how do I do that?
Or in this instance, then, when people want to sort of change roles because they want to work in areas of management, or they see that, you know, they're seeing an opportunity, basically.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to work in an area of management then. So then, right, so if I want to work in an area of management, what I have to do then is get this qualification, get that qualification, get this experience, and get that experience, right? So that's how I'm going to work in that area of management. That is your performance. So the performance is the standards that have to be met to get to where you want to go. And your process is the behavior that you're going to alter to get there. So, right, okay, so to be in management, I have to get this management and leadership qualification level 2. Right, to do that then, I need to start reading this book, I need to start reading that book, I need to get onto this course and that course. So actually, by spending this time alone to focus on ourselves, safe at home, we're now thinking about, right, okay, I'm going to go work in management. To do that, I need to do this, and to achieve that, this is what I'm going to do. Until we work our way to our outcome goal, and we will find ourselves becoming more and more and more motivated because of it.
Okay. So, is there anything else? What's on the next slide there, then, Jim?
Happy days. So, focusing on what you want to achieve during this time will massively help you. Okay, saying, "Oh, I haven't got anything to do. I haven't got anything to focus on." We've all got something. Finding something that is intrinsic, that is subjective to you, that you can really, really enjoy, and that you can get involved with. That is going to motivate you. Keeping a timetable. Always really push this with people. Making sure you keep a timetable. Staying focused on what you want to do. Okay, because it's so easy to say, yeah, I'll do this, or yeah, I'll do that. But then if you don't actually do it, there's no accountability. But if you keep a timetable, if you write it down and you tick it off as you do it, all of a sudden you are accountable. You are taking ownership of your goals, and you're taking ownership of your situation. Remember, everything is choice. So if you don't write it down, it's because you choose to not write it down. If you don't achieve it, it's because you've chosen not to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And as it says there, learning a new skill or taking up a hobby, identifying who you are and what you are and where you want to go and who you want to be and what you want to be, this will then begin to motivate you. This new skill, this new hobby. Not only that's extremely healthy for the brain to constantly learn new things, we're constantly engaging neural patterns that we haven't before. We're engaging these neural patterns, we're growing, we're healthy, we're achieving things, our self-confidence is improving, and we are beginning to feel better. All of a sudden, we're not in lockdown at stay at home. We are working on ourselves safe at home.
Right, okay. I think I've got that. James. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay. Well, you know, these are all really interesting points, and I've had quite a few questions through, which I really want to get to. And don't forget, people, that if you're watching, please send them through, and we'll try and answer as many as we can.
Yeah.
There was a good point made, though, during what you were discussing. Just simply, if you're hearing negative, there's 2 points really. Firstly, was if you're hearing negative messages, for example, if Boris is constantly on your TV, why not just turn it off?
Yeah.
Is that a good approach to this?
Yeah, absolutely is. So I was talking, when we talk about healthy habits, and I do a lot about lifestyle medicine, but talk about healthy habits and actually give yourself a fighting chance. So we talk about actually helping to prevent ourselves against negative thoughts. There's several other sort of behaviors, health behaviors that we can bring in to really help us, to really assist us. So for example, turn it off, turn the telly off. I catch the headlines. Okay, what is that? Is the world still on fire? Okay, yeah, it is. Right, sound, I'll turn that off, crack on my day. I certainly don't have it on constant. 24-hour news is terrible anyway. So yeah, turn it off. Absolutely turn it off. As well, there's other health behaviors we can do that are greatly going to assist our situation. For example, are you eating right? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting 8 hours sleep? If you're choosing to not drink enough water, and you're choosing to not eat properly, and you're choosing to stay up late staring at a TV screen, then you can't then complain the next day when you say, oh, I feel really down, I feel really depressed, I feel really exhausted. It's because you have chosen to feel that way. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Right. I think I'll just quickly add to that, James, is that absolutely give yourselves a fighting chance and prescribe to yourself what you would like to feel. I think we all know what good feels like when we come across it as well. So there's negative noise, negative information, but there's music, there's sounds, there's conversations, there's even memories that we can stir and muster that help us, that lift us. And it's not fictitious, it's actually a biological, neurological fact that if you stimulate yourself with things that are positive and good, you then end up feeling positive and good. And for those that are listening, one of the things is, if you can all just cast your minds back to smelling mother's home cooking and what that feels like, you must have a smile on your face, and it gives you a little tingle sensation. That is the release of good neurochemistry in your body that says, I feel good now, and that helps. So give yourself more of that each day.
Yeah. But I guess there's kind of a strange opposite to this, though, isn't there? And someone's pointed out in the Q&A that aren't the best warning signs all negative messages?
Best warning signs in which context? Best warning signs is in how we're feeling?
Well, I guess in terms of the most powerful messages are the ones that are perhaps a bit negative, that make us kind of recoil a little bit because we take most notice of them.
Well, I think that we take most notice of them because as human beings, we're wired to survival. So we're wired to survival mode. So actually, when we say, no, negative emotions and negative feelings are the most powerful, yeah, because we are designed to run from saber-toothed tigers. We are designed to hunt, kill, to survive. And these negative feelings, we get these negative emotions, are designed for our survival. But actually, in the modern world that we live in, we are not sprinting after saber-toothed tigers anymore and dancing around fires. We don't do that anymore. And so this constant bombardment of negative emotions that we find so much more powerful than that of positive is a really bad thing. And actually that constant release of stress, of cortisol, the stress hormone in our brain is so dangerous. And actually when we talk about depression, when we talk about mental well-being slipping into mental health, we look at the fact that actually all of this stress and all of this cortisol constantly being released, and how damaging it is, actually how physically damaging it is into the neural patterns of the brain, because we constantly allow these negative emotions to overwhelm us. So yes, negative emotions are powerful because we're wired to survive, but that doesn't mean they need to dictate your life or dictate your moods to you.
Yeah. And going back to, obviously, the final slide that we're looking at now is the tips and tricks. And we've had a question through that says, a lot of people will be concerned that they won't have the skills and capabilities to cope with this new normal that you mentioned earlier. So, what kind of advice could you give to them so they feel more ready to deal with what's coming, or what could possibly come, I guess?
Well, I mean, I guess from an industry perspective, it's about putting out the right doctrine and the right information so people, first of all, can understand what that change will look like. As far as underestimating your ability to manage that change, I'd say that you're going to be very pleasantly surprised at your brain's ability to adapt and evolve. We're designed to evolve. We're designed to adapt. And actually, adaptability and flexibility of thought is a key aspect of resiliency, of mental resilience, and it's certainly something that I focus on a lot. And going back to work and just understanding in an exciting way that actually there's going to be so many new practices, so many exciting new things going on. How can I take advantage of this situation? How can I adapt faster? When we look at ecosystems, the animal that rises to the top of that ecosystem isn't on the top of that food chain, isn't the most vicious or the one with the biggest teeth or the fastest. It's the one that evolves quickest to change. And you can be that person who rises to the top of their food chain by simply evolving faster than everyone else, by embracing the changes. Don't fight against it. These changes are coming in for the benefit of everybody, for health, for well-being, for productivity. So embrace those changes, because you can't fight against them. So embrace that change and mold to it.
I suppose if I can add just something to that as well, and reframe, and use one of the techniques and reframe. So there's an uncertainty. We didn't expect COVID-19 to impact us all this year, and we're all individually feeling that. Let's put it on its head and say we all play the national lottery. And this is something to really think about. We all play the national lottery. What happens if one Saturday, Friday, or Wednesday your numbers do come in? Yeah, you're going to have to rethink about who you're going to be and what you're going to do in the future and then afterwards. but you happen to enjoy that because it's then positive planning, positive thoughts, because it's, oh, I've got nothing to worry about, because apparently this money's going to take care of all of your fears and concerns. But really, you've still got a transformation process to go through, and you're going to make a number of changes, change your lifestyle, change your job, change your career, if you're going to have one, and so on and so forth. And this issue presents the same type of question, which is, what are you going to change and transform into? As if you won the lottery, what are you going to change and transform into? Does that make sense? In terms of, yeah, I know that one's obviously a little bit more negative, or how we perceive it, but the way that we can, the way that we can apply ourselves using some of the techniques is to see it that way and go, what can I become?
Yeah. Okay, then. A lot of this discussion is obviously about individuals, isn't it? You know, looking after ourselves and making sure that we have the tools, I guess, to cope with different events. If you're a company and you've got people that you employ, how can you use these techniques or these tips to help others rather than just looking at yourself?
I think it's the understanding that, that if you've got a certain perspective and you feel a certain way, and you're embracing and you're feeling some, allowing yourself to feel these emotions, that you can understand that probably the majority of your workforce feel the same way. And actually, therefore, like a compassion, a bit of sympathy and empathy towards how they're feeling will greatly affect, therefore, their enjoyment at work. So having people and simply saying, look, I understand how you're feeling, because I feel the same. This is uncertain times for me as well. However, like, what an exciting opportunity we have as a business, what an exciting opportunity we have as a company now to push forward in this perspective and in this perspective, in this context, we can grow and develop. And what I need is flexible, adaptable and positive mindsets from everybody, including myself, so we can push forward. And as an organization, laying out as quickly as you can what these changes will look like, explaining to people in full what these changes will look like, and what amendments you're making to working practices for their benefit and for your benefit. And then from there, being able to push forward as a company, and actually just being a little bit more sympathetic to how everybody is most definitely in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay. This might have been covered in a little bit anyway, but someone's made a very good point online that, you want to keep out the negativity, if you work in a dealership, for example, and concentrate on good things. But in reality, how does someone go about it? It's with like a lot of things, I guess it's easy to say, but less easy to put into practice. So how would you go about
emotional intelligence and self-awareness are very difficult to master, and there's people who spend their entire lives trying to master it. I think it's being educated and aware. So actually saying, I understand framing and I understand focus. I understand that I feel a certain way and how I can control that. I also understand that it will massively help how I feel, the way that I look at things, the perspective which I look at them. So if I positively frame something, I'm far more likely to feel good about it. And actually bringing that into the workplace, when we talk about influencing other people's attitudes, behaviors and beliefs, we look at cognitive dissonance theory and therefore role model theory, which is the one that I buy into. So I won't go down this rabbit hole, but essentially, if you want people to adopt an attitude, behavior, or belief that you want them to, start doing it yourself. Yeah. So actually, to spread that positivity throughout your workplace and through all your colleagues and friends, actually start role modeling that and start positively framing situations, start being very aware of how you feel and how you can manage that. And then other people will then start repeating your behavior. As well, positively rewarding behavior that you want to see is far more likely to repeat that behavior. So rather than punishing somebody or disciplining somebody, who is having a bad day and negatively framing things, actually positively reward the behavior that you want to see repeated, and it is far more likely for them to repeat it. So when you see somebody being positively framing them, praising them, like encouraging them, nurturing them, is a far better way of getting this positivity spread throughout the workplace.
Okay. There was another point's just been raised, that isn't this an opportunity to become more collaborative, working 100%. With other people, and is that a good thing to be doing at the moment?
Yeah, very much so. And Jim, jump in as well, but very much so. Collaboration. We are by design as human beings. We're meant to be connected, and I think that's what's really come to the surface, right up until the international level. Really, is that that our need to be connected and help each other really is really important for our well-being, our emotional well-being, and on our future survival. So collaboration, ideas and suggestions that come out now because of these circumstances are good things, because it helps with discussions. It presses into the areas where we're looking for solutions, and we're looking for solutions together that's good for me and good for someone else as well. So, you know, in a quick analogy, if you become and have the attitude of I am my brother's keeper, yeah, then all of a sudden, you know, it has a completely different sense of feel to you. Jimmy, have you got anything else to add to that?
So I think we talk about tribal instinct here is being so powerful. I mean, just put it into a perspective. You know, if you look at, say, like army recruitment, hashtag this is belonging, like that draws millions of people into, you know, well, I want to be part of something like that, and then whittle it down to the thousands and then the hundreds of people that do get to then join the army, because hashtag this is belonging. We will do incredible things to be part of a tribe, to be part of something, to be part of a unit. And it's something that we all as human beings crave. And actually, if you engage with your fellow man, if you engage with each other, if you actually speak and bond and connect, then you are belonging, and you are engaging, you're supporting each other, and you get far more satisfaction, a far greater release of dopamine by doing things together as a tribe. Someone talked earlier on in one of the questions in a briefing, somebody said about the law of attraction. I do buy into elements of that, and that actually the birds of a feather flock together. We talk about social learning theories, that actually people who have similar personality traits actually do tend to gravitate towards each other. And that's a great thing. Like, if you want to work hard, if you're a positive person, then find other hardworking, positive people to spend your time with. That's only going to multiply that character trait within you.
Okay. And I guess it's always good to bring it back to ourselves, really, isn't it? And so how are you both, or how have you adapted, or are you adapting to what we're currently facing?
For me, I am a person, I have, you know, as I announced at the beginning, I'm a real people person. I have to feel that I'm helping and I'm part of a solution, not just sitting in the problem, if you like. And within about sort of 10 days of lockdown being first announced, I contacted my local Sainsbury's, because I knew that they were going to need delivery drivers. There are a lot of people, a lot of vulnerable people staying at home, etc., and people with various issues and illnesses and impacts, and they need support, they need contact, they need supplies, they need lots of things. And I've been working with Sainsbury's now, delivering and doing other bits, supporting on it as a key worker, if you like, for the last 6 or 7 weeks, and that helps me feel good. I get a bit of exercise, I get a bit of contact with people, but it allows me to feel that I'm part of a solution, not a problem. So that then is good for me. But if I'd have sat at home and not really looked at myself and what I need, because I need contact and I need to feel like I'm doing something worthwhile, and I found that temporarily in this Sainsbury's thing. Jim, is there anything you do?
Yeah, so I got on the first responder app, and I'm a registered first responder. I've been getting involved with that, which has been really, really great. And as well, I've been adapting like my work and what I do. You know, I'm doing Zoom calls now, and I've never really done that before, not like this. So all of a sudden, I've gone from being someone who, you know, particularly when I do my one-on-one coaching, I like to sit there and sit directly opposite someone and read their reactions and sort of look into them and to produce a product and to really feel like I get through to them. And now I'm doing it via Zoom, and I've never, you know, that's something I've had to adapt to change to, and sort of change my methods of instruction for that. So yeah, I've had to change quite a lot and adapt quite a lot.
Yeah, and I guess it's something that we've all got to do, isn't it? It's the small adaptations that will help us get through what's coming.
Yeah, and again, that is life. If you think about it, where we adapted. Mid-90s, we adapted, or certainly late 90s, we adapted, and we embraced the internet. I remember that real clear transition. I remember when mobile phones changed to smartphones, and we adapted to those. And you know, we can look over a timeline and go, right, we embrace these things because we stopped seeing them as a threat and a problem, and we just understood that we can work with it and actually can work for it to our benefits. And so, you know, again, this particular circumstances has caused us a moment to pause, But if we adapt with the understanding that actually people are, our families are, and individuals around us are important, let's spend a bit more time telling them that they are important to us and we love and care for them. All of a sudden that starts to change us, and our value structure and everything else.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've given a lot of advice, and well, you both have given a lot of advice to people that are watching. I wondered if I could ask one more question in terms of being able to kickstart these small steps to the changes and the adaptations that you need to make. Are there any sort of documents or tools available that could help people, you know, to try and do it, or small nuggets of advice to get them the ball rolling, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's huge amounts of literature on there. I think one of the best pieces of literature that I read for sort of mind management and emotional control was The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. I think that's probably one of the best books that's actually that's out there. There's another huge amount, but I would always recommend Lifestyle Medicine, the book Lifestyle Medicine. So really fascinating now about health behaviors and just the little things that you can do to massively improve your well-being, not just your immediate well-being, but your well-being sort of for the future. Something that we need to focus on. And obviously there's a huge amount online for people to get into. Obviously we've got Ben and Mind and the COVID links that obviously I'm sure you'll touch on now. But yeah, there's a huge amount. But I would always recommend, as far as reading goes, I'm definitely sure that the Chimp Paradox is on Audible. Have a little read of the Chimp Paradox and certainly look up Lifestyle Medicine.
For me, the way, before I engage in consuming any sort of theoretical material or anything, I've got to get myself ready. I've got to get myself ready to absorb whatever it is that I'm going to take on board. And what I tend to do is try and find meaning, significance, joy. I like having a laugh. I like having lots of fun, and I sometimes feel that you know, with a lot of negativity and stuff, that's missing. So I try and recreate those stimuli, if you like, that make me feel right. I'm having a good moment, and that happens through. I deliberately try and cause those things to happen through conversations or whatever the means I've got right now, so that then that stimulates my opportunity to be creative and spontaneous and accepting, and then I'm able to take those steps forward and then utilize the great stuff that Jim Elliott would talk about, or anybody else. So I've got to get myself ready first, and it's a bit like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym in workman's uniform, if you like. You're going to go to your gym in your gym kit. You prepare yourself before you go there, so that then you give yourself a best opportunity to do that. And I really make sure I do the preparation first before I engage in the activity.
Okay, smashing. Well, I think you've given a huge amount of information and detail, and hopefully some really useful hints and tips for the people that have been taking part. Obviously on the screen now are a few useful links. The IMI COVID-19 hub page is always going to be updated with as much information as and when it comes out, and help and support. The industry charity, Ben, is always open if you have any issues and need any assistance, as is Mind, of course, one of the many charities that help in this kind of sphere. I'd just like to thank everyone for attending. Carl Williams, obviously, and James Elliott, for your time. It's been great having you on, and I hope that everyone that's been part of this webinar today has enjoyed it too. Just a reminder, it will be uploaded, so if you've missed anything, want to go over any ground again, or share it with other people that you may know, then it will be on the COVID-19 website soon. And but apart from that, thanks for all your questions. They were really good. And once again, just finally, thanks to Carl and James for taking part.
No, thank you. Thanks for having us, guys. We look forward to seeing you again.
Smashing. Thank you.
Take care.